An alarming 83% of married women in India, aged between 18 to 49, who have experienced sexual violence, report their current husband as the perpetrator. This stark reality brings to light the prevalence of marital rape in the country, a crime currently exempted under the Indian criminal law of rape. Rooted in colonial law, these exemptions are perceived to reinforce an outdated and disturbing notion: the concept of a husband's ownership over his wife. This belief is not only deeply problematic, but it also starkly contrasts with the principles of modern society and the values enshrined in the Indian constitution. These laws, originally inherited from a colonial past, are relics that contradict the constitutional guarantees of the Indian citizen. They clash with the rights to life, dignity, equality, and non-discrimination, rights that every individual is entitled to, irrespective of their marital status. These laws, entrenched in a bygone era, starkly contrast with the Indian constitutional guarantee of rights to life, dignity, equality, and non-discrimination. India's Supreme Court is on the brink of delivering a judgment that could significantly alter the landscape of women's rights in the country. This judgment revolves around a fiercely debated subject rooted in colonial law: the criminalization of marital rape. The court has been considering petitions challenging the current marital rape exemption, a stark remnant of British colonial law that seems to reinforce the notion of a husband's ownership of his wife's person. The implications of this judgment are monumental. Should the court decide in favor of criminalizing marital rape, India would join the ranks of nearly 150 countries that have already taken this step. It would mean that the explicit exception for husbands in the criminal law provision on rape would be removed, bringing a significant shift in the legal perspective on marital relations. However, this potential change is not without controversy. Critics argue that removing the marital rape exemption could undermine the institution of marriage. They worry that it could open the floodgates for false accusations, damaging the sanctity of the marital bond. On the other hand, proponents of the change argue that it is a necessary step towards protecting the bodily autonomy and sexual integrity of married women. They stress that the exemption goes against the Indian constitutional guarantee of rights to life, dignity, equality, and non-discrimination, and that it's high time for it to be abolished. This judgment carries the potential to redefine the very concept of consent within the sanctity of marriage, and its implications are far-reaching. Nearly 150 countries around the world have already criminalized marital rape, placing India at a crossroads. The global perspective on this issue is clear. Marital rape is a violation of human rights, and the law should reflect that. India is not alone in grappling with this issue. Many nations, before reaching their current stance, have had to confront and dismantle deeply entrenched societal norms, much like what India is experiencing today. This journey towards change is neither swift nor easy, but it is crucial. In India, there are currently civil remedies available under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act and matrimonial law. However, these provisions, remnants of colonial law, are seen as reinforcing the notion of a husband's ownership of his wife's person. They do not fully address the criminality of the act, nor do they provide sufficient protection for the victim. These laws are a stark contrast to the global trend of recognizing and addressing marital rape as a criminal act. It is a trend that acknowledges the rights of women to safety, dignity, and equality. It's a trend that champions the idea that marriage is not a license to violate one's partner. As India stands on the precipice of this monumental decision, it finds itself balancing its cultural norms with the universal human rights of its citizens. The decision of the Supreme Court is keenly awaited, not just by India, but by the world. A collective breath is held as we find ourselves on the precipice of a verdict that could significantly shape the future of women's rights in India. This judgment carries the weight of anticipation, hope, and uncertainty as it determines whether the marital rape exemption violates the very fabric of the Indian Constitution. It's a moment of reckoning, If the court rules in favor of criminalizing marital rape, India would join the nearly 150 countries where this violation of human dignity is already a crime. This would be a monumental step forward, signaling a shift in societal norms and furthering the cause of equality and justice. On the other hand, if the court upholds the exemption, it would be seen as a reinforcement of dated norms that contradict the constitutional guarantee of rights to life, dignity, equality, and non-discrimination. As the world watches, India stands at a threshold. The upcoming verdict has the potential to either reaffirm dated norms or propel the nation into a new era of women's rights.